Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the last episode in season 1 of Ikigai with Jennifer Shinkai. And today's guest is me. The episode you've all been waiting for. Yes, it's Jennifer Shinkai. Somebody mentioned to me, Jayne, and also somebody else who I can't remember who it was, but they said, "Where's your interview? When are we going to find out what you think about Ikigai and why you're doing everything that you're doing?" And Jayne Nakata, my amazing podcast manager, said, "Do you know what? I've had the same idea that you've had, and I volunteered to interview you and let you step back and take a moment and share all of these things." So Jayne is going to be interviewing me. It's very exciting to not have to look at my notes and to be in the guest hot seats. And for those of you who don't know Jayne, she is a successful podcaster in her own right. Her Transformations with the Jayne podcast, which is maybe one of my very earliest podcast appearances back in the day. And then she's lived an interesting life, and you can hear all about that on her podcast, but is currently reinventing herself as podcast manager extraordinaire from her home in the Fukushima area of Japan. And you've got how many podcasts in your stable right now? Your talent stable?
Yeah, it's at least 6, growing to over 10 in early next year. We've got quite a few in
pre-production.
Pre-production, yes, and development, as we development. Like to call it.
Oh, right, thank
you. Yes,
that's so cool. And Jayne just brings so much relief to me as a podcaster. If you're listening to this podcast, it's probably because you found out about it through the social media work that Jayne and her team have been doing. The fact that it even gets edited together is thanks to Jayne. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it's thanks to my wonderful nephew Sam, who has I'm his first client, like starting up his production company from the UK. So it's really cool to be able to have this opportunity to be the guest and to, I'm just going to hand over to Jayne now to do the rest of the interview. I've still got building work all outside my house, as normal. Podcast listeners will be used to that. But if you can't hear the building work, again, it's thanks to Jayne, because she edits very nicely. And any complaints, send them to her.
Yeah. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Jennifer. And I'm very excited to be taking over the episode today and turning the tables on you and asking some of the questions that you love to ask your guests in the episodes. Yeah. And it's very true that many people are probably thinking, so who is this Jennifer person? I love hearing about Ikigai and, all of these wonderful people that Jennifer has interviewed, but what about Jennifer? So today is a chance to hear about Jennifer herself. Yay. And so Jennifer, I know your coming to Japan story, and we all have one, don't we, as people who are in Japan. So, but I think that has been missed in this season 1. We have not heard why on earth is a girl from, it's Northern England you're from, right?
Yes.
Yes. And ended up in Tokyo, and why are you still here after all this time? So please tell us your coming to Japan story.
I hate this question. Only joking.
Insider joke. Yeah.
Insider joke. Yes, I was recently on David Sweet, who was also a Ikigai with Jennifer Shinkai podcast guest, his podcast Barefoot Lunch, and every question he asked me, I was like, hate that question. But which version of my origin story shall I share today? It wasn't like a big plan. I hadn't always loved Japan and wanted to come and been really into anime and manga or studied Japanese at university. I had a bit of a broken heart, and I decided I wanted to get out of England for a year. And so I applied to be an eikaiwa teacher, an English language school teacher. And I remember I saw the advert in the Guardian newspaper back in the days when people got jobs from newspapers. Shows how old I am. And I came to Japan in 1999 for a year. Worked in an English school, and after a couple of months thought, this is probably not going to be long enough time. So I decided that I would extend my contract. And then I met Mr. Shinkai, and the rest is not history.
Us about that.
The rest is, I've told this story on many other podcasts, but definitely when we first met, I did not imagine that we would get married, that I would still be here, that we'd have 2 kids, that we'd have a mortgage, that he'd be my massive cheerleader. Like that was not on the cards at all when we first met. So yeah, very grateful for how things have worked out.
So how did you meet though? Just quickly.
We met in a club in Shibuya.
Oh, it's a club. Oh,
yes,
that's exciting.
Yes. And a couple of years into our relationship, like on our anniversary, we went back and we just felt so old. And it was such an awful club. But yeah, it was not the type of place you expect to meet your life partner, but we did. Yeah. And he, he tried to pick up my friend, but she was with someone at the time and I was single. So I was like the second choice. We always joke about. So, but he's like, no, was a destiny, was and I'll go into to me at that time. So
it is. That's such a cool story. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you met Mr. Shinkai, you fell in love, got married. And so somewhere along the way, you went from being the Eikaiwa teacher to what? So can you tell us a little bit about this journey?
So then I decided that, probably working in Eikaiwa forever wasn't going to happen. And that's actually sort of why we got married, kind of green card wedding. So it's like, how do I get you to stay in Japan? And he proposed to me and we got married like days before my visa ran out, actually.
Not dodgy at all.
It's not dodgy at all. And we had been together for a couple of years before, so I think it was okay. We made it through. But then I joined a recruitment agency and I worked in that recruitment company. It was called Wall Street Associates when I joined. Hello, Nick. And then it got bought by a big Japanese company called N Japan, and it was N World when I left. And through those 12 years that I worked there, I did a lot of different jobs. I was like kind of jumpy within a company. So I did sales, I did training, I did sales operations, I did marketing. And then there was a period after I'd come back from my second kid had been born. I was just really, really unhappy in what I was doing every day, in the team I was in. And I just decided to start to work with a coach. And that was kind of the change, like the next big change in my life.
So what happened then? You became?
What happened then was I decided that I wasn't going to work in corporate anymore, and I was going to go back to training, because I'd worked in training, at the head office of the language school and then also in the recruitment company. And yeah, I decided I was going to quit my corporate job, start my business and be a facilitator and a coach.
And how did that go to start with? Was it all butterflies and money rolling in? And
the first 6 months pretty hard. But actually, I think once I had decided what I wanted to do, everything just fell into place. So the hard part is like making that decision. And that was where like I wish I'd known about like the Ikigai model at that time. Like I hadn't heard of it. Although we can get into like what my relationship is with the Ikigai model now. But it was surprising. It was surprising, like once a decision had been made and I had the right like support people around me, basically my husband, and like one client who said like, yes, I'll work with you. Then it just started to go. And is every day easy? No. But am I much happier than I was in like the tail end of 2015, 16? Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so when did you come to know about Ikigai, this very important word that this whole podcast is based around? when did Ikigai appear on your radar, and how did you get to know about it?
So I wish I'd done my research on myself properly before this. This is all written in my book, actually, like with the dates and everything. But I feel like it was around 2018. And I joined a Points of View coaching game workshop run by Narumi Isoda around the Ikigai model. And I think around that time, I had also got my hands on a copy of Hector Garcia's book, Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life. And I remember reading on the back of that book, it said, all Japanese have an ikigai, a reason to jump out of bed. And I was like, really? It's not what I see. I'd worked in the recruitment industry for 12 years. So I'd seen a lot of people who, in terms of like they're jumping out of bed and going to work, were not really feeling it. And yeah, I love you see you're like shaking your head.
Show me where are these people
right,
who jump out of bed, and
yeah and I was just like kind of not sure if this is true, so I was interested to see what a Japanese facilitator thought about this, and Narumi-san had also sort of felt the same thing, so that was quite interesting. But we were using this Venn diagram, which became very famous, and I'd sort of seen it on LinkedIn and different social media. So that was quite interesting. As a coaching tool, the Venn diagram is fabulous. And then I started to do more research into it, and recently had a guest on the podcast, Nick Kemp, who kind of opened my eyes to like, actually, the Ikigai Venn diagram, like that wasn't written by a Japanese person. That's not what Japanese people think of around Ikigai. And that kind of got my interest in, so what does it really mean? And how can we use the different models, as well as thinking about like, what's the reason to be here? What does get me out of bed in the morning, which is not only career related, it's various other things, but what is that for each of us? And how can we bring it into our day? Just like have better lives, basically.
And so what is there's all these different ikigais out there, right? What is the thing that you like to focus on, or your take on ikigai?
So my take on ikigai is, it is as expansive as you want it to be, and it is without judgment anything that for me makes me feel like I still want to be here tomorrow. So I kind of use it as a mental health check-in for myself. Like there is, this is pretty morbid, but like there's a reason for me not to kill myself today.
Yeah.
Like, because I want to be here tomorrow. I'm not done with this. I'm not finished with these things, and there's things which I look forward to, and there's feelings and emotions that I want to have. So I'm gonna this is what I can control. I can't, if I'm taken in the night, that's like none of my business. But do I still want to be here? Will I wake up tomorrow and face the day? Yes, then that's what it is for me. And sometimes it's work, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's art, sometimes it's laziness, because I can't be bothered to kill myself. That's an awful thing to say, but like okay, we'll just kind of stick on the day a little bit more. Yeah,
so I was going to ask you, what is your things that give you those feelings that you want to have? So you mentioned obviously work. You are doing work that's meaningful to you now.
Yeah.
And art. Let's talk a little bit more about the art thing that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Because you're having, as you said, an artist reawakening.
Yes. So this was something which, one of the things in a lot of Ikigai coaching and different discussions of it is about the feeling of Ikigai. And you can think about things which happened in the past, the present, as well as the future. And I was thinking, I used to really, really love doing any type of art. Actually, no, not any type of art, because I wasn't really a painter. I liked making things. I liked doing work with fabric and with like batik and screen print and glass and all these weird things. So I had this amazing teacher at school. And then when I went to university and moved to Japan, I kind of lost touch with it. I have had a couple of dalliances with Hanga, which is like a screen printing, block printing. Ukiyo-e is like the posh version of it, but I wouldn't like to call myself in that hallowed field. And yeah, I came back to it in COVID because one of my friends was running an online art class, and then through that, I somehow managed to write a children's book, and I'm doing art not every day, but more every day. The last 2 weeks have been really hard, but I was doing some art every day, and I got a commission to write another to illustrate a poem. And I'm just seeing like, what does that look like to do more of that? Because the time just goes and I feel very fulfilled and I look forward to creating. And when I'm doing it, I feel good. And afterwards, when I look at it, sometimes I feel a bit frustrated, but I feel like that's not what was in my head, not how it came out. But the whole process is quite joyful. And yeah, so I feel like it's a Ikigai source, a big source of Ikigai for me.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you've always had this, but the reawakening has only sort of come thanks to COVID almost.
Yeah,
But it's
definitely. And I feel like it was one of those things that I've seen this a lot in different interviews in the podcast. People kind of feel they're not allowed to do it because that's not what people like them do, like however they were raised, or because I'm a woman, or because I'm a mother, or because I'm a foreigner living in Japan, or because of whatever label you want to apply to yourself is stopping you from doing these things. And it's really sad, actually. Really, really sad to hear that and to see that. So I just thought, what would it be like if I was the type of person who what would it be like if I was an artist? And I sold my first piece of work this week.
Tell us about that. Yes.
So obviously I have the book, but somehow that doesn't seem called Can Giraffe Swim, by the way, available on Amazon right now.
Link in the show notes.
Yeah, in the show notes. Thanks, Jayne. Obviously, so I have that, but somehow it felt very different to sell a book which is scanned copies of the work. To the other day I actually just like handed over, I mean, it wasn't even mounted. I'm sure I'll be like terribly embarrassed when I look back, but yeah, just handing over something which I had created, and I had created it for someone as well. I don't want to say it was a commission, but it kind of was. I had done a sketch of a friend's dog for this illustration that I'm working on, and he's like, oh, I love it, can I buy it? And I was like, oh, it's not for sale, because it's in this character study for this book. And I said, let me repaint it for you and I'll sell it to you. And he said yes, did. And it was actually, though, a sad story, because the dog that it's based on sadly has passed away since the picture was painted. But actually that meant that it was all sort of almost more meaningful, and it brought quite some sort of tears of joy to the owners of this passing, the passing of this family member, and the new owners of this artwork. So when they took it home, that was really nice to be able to have that small impact.
I'd say it's a huge impact for those owners. I'm getting a bit tearful myself over here, because I can just imagine if that was your beloved pet who passed away and they got a beautiful picture painted that they could look at and remember them. That would be beautiful. What a gift to the owners, and for you to be part of that. Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, actually, when my husband looked at the picture, he's like, oh look, the dog is like on this pathway to heaven, to the like dog. I didn't notice that, but now you say it. Yeah. You never know, like, what stories might come out afterwards in whatever you create.
Yes. And I noticed your jellyfish picture is gone.
No, it's just been taken down. It hasn't been sold, but it's still available. No, because it was getting knocked every time I opened the door. It's like, I really can't sell this. This is too wrecked. Right. But that's something I'm like looking forward to next year, is to be, what could I do as like an exhibition, or just to get more feedback on my style and what people like, what people don't like, and where I might go. So that was some great advice I had, was to have a show, do a show, and then, but a show for feedback, a show for comments, right? To get people together and like look at all different types of work. So not necessarily telling a story as an exhibition would, but to be more, what's grabbing you, right? Because it's very hard to like judge your own work. as well.
Yeah, well, this is obviously a whole new, like there's no right answer in this
Yeah.
art world business,
No.
and there's lots of learnings to happen and new people to get to know and new networks to learn about and things. So it's going to be a very interesting year for you next year,
Yes.
I
Yeah,
would
definitely.
say,
Yeah.
putting your
And
foot into the
that's
water
one of
there.
the things in the Ikigai 9, which is how to describe it. I want to say an assessment, but I don't know if it has the rigor of an assessment. Anyway, but it was great framework. Thank you. Yeah, maybe it's more of an assessment actually, because you can use it as like a psychological check-in through Derby University, I want to say, Cortera, and I've forgotten the other guy's name. Sorry, really bad at this part of my job. And one of the questions is, I am interested in learning new things. And so you can kind of give yourself a score on all these different parts of the framework. And I'm really feeling that, like, I'm really interested in learning new things from an Ikigai perspective. That's kind of what keeps me like, oh, what would this be like? And what do I do here? And how do I solve this problem? So, yeah.
Yeah, it's great to keep it light at this stage and not get too, I'm rubbish and I've only just started.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. And like, here's one thing. Like, of course, there's all different types of artists in the world, and there's all different types of consumers in the world. So sometimes you'll go somewhere and you'll see something in your shop and you'll be like, oh, there's one shop actually in Ginza, and just this, I'm like, who buys this? Who buys this stuff? It's awful. And somebody will look at my work and go, who buys this stuff? It's awful. But other people will look at it and go, I must have this in my home. And it takes all sorts, like that great diversity of life. Yeah. So no accounting for taste. And
people 10 colors, as they say here in Japan, isn't it?
Sorry, I don't know that one. 10 people, 10 colors. Oh, yeah.
10 toiro. 10
Okay.
people, 10 colors. Like 10 people like 10 people. 10 people like 10 different colors.
Oh, I never heard
That's like
that
one of the only
before.
sayings I can remember in Japanese.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah.
Very
So,
good.
yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah. So, what advice do you have for your listeners who are listening and wondering about Ikigai and the new year coming? And what would you say to people thinking about how they might be going to approach their Ikigai or finding out more about their Ikigai in the coming new year?
Well, probably, I feel like I should probably do like a sales pitch, like I should do a workshop or something. But apart from that, which I don't have a particular Ikigai workshop plan, but I've just thought, oh no, I'm a very bad marketer in that moment. But I think just do something, just that little thing which is nagging you, that you've been thinking, would this make me feel good? Just try it and see if it does. I think a lot of the narrative around Ikigai is that it has to be this all-consuming, the center of the Venn diagram. It's got to be something that you love and you're good at and the world needs and you can be paid for. And it's like, no, just what makes you feel alive and what makes you excited to be here. Like, find those things and do those things. And it could be something that you've not done for a very long time, like in the case of art for me. Or it could be something that, maybe you have something, Jayne, that like keeps coming up, like keeps kind of showing up again and again. You're like, oh, maybe I should like answer this little call to this thing. Yeah, do that thing.
Yeah.
For like 5 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever, like the small, easy version of it is. And really just experiment. We don't have to make this lifelong commitment to the thing. Yeah. So what's coming up for you on that one? You got anything?
Yeah, when you were talking about that, I was thinking, and it's good to think about, when you said about things that you used to be good at or something or you used to do.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, what about things that you were really rubbish at? Why not give them a go now as an adult and try out sort of overturning some of these beliefs you have about yourself?
Oh, I like that too.
Because I noticed that it was about 4 years ago when I took up running. Running is the thing that I've never been able to do. I've always been terrible. I've always been the last on cross country race day and hated all of the sports events at school. But for some reason, I just thought, I'm going to go out and I'm going to try this. And yeah, 4 years later, I'm officially a runner. How did that happen? That was, if you'd asked any of my PE teachers, they would say, yeah, good luck. You have no sporting ability whatsoever. So yeah, why not sort of look at those things that have always, maybe in my case, I might have had a bit of shame around them. Why not sort of look at them again and go, well, what if I was good at this? Or what if I could do this? And so I've started doing golf.
Cool.
I don't play golf.
Right.
I'm not a golfer. No, like I said, no natural ability in sports. But I thought, well, what if I just practiced? Maybe I would get good at it. And then, so my ultimate goal is that my whole family can go and play golf together when we go to New Zealand, because my husband's a golfer, my mother is a golfer, my father was a golfer when he was with us. And, so golf is something that's always sort of been in my life, but I've never been able to do it. And that's kind of been frustrating to sort of, watch other people be able to do it and then just think, oh, but I'm not good at sports, or especially sports that involve sticks and balls. It's just
hand-eye coordination.
Too much. But then I thought, well, maybe it is just a lack of practice, and maybe I just need to practice a bit more than other people. So I will just start practicing and let's see how we go. And well, wouldn't you know it, I can actually hit a ball now instead of just make holes in the grass in my lawn in the garden.
All those divots.
Yeah, with less divots happening in the grass now. The ball's leaving the ground a little bit. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, what would happen if I practice a little bit more?
Yeah.
And the stakes are very low. I'm just going to give it a go. And maybe in a year or two's time, I'll be a golfer as well as a runner.
There you go. Yeah. Not running after the balls, going off in the different.
Very handy to be able to run after all those balls that go into the rough and things. So, yeah.
Yeah, so, I like that. I like, though, that it's not disconnected from other roles. So I can sort of see this feeling of it's connected to who you are and how you want to feel in your family, and this idea of that thing. So one of the things which worries me when people say, oh, if it feels like a should goal, well, I should be doing this thing, or I should do that because that's what people like me do, or everyone is doing that. That always gets my are you sure? But I think because the example that you've given, it's not so much about golf. It could be anything, but that happens to be the way that you can connect to this sort of vision of the future, this idea of how good it's going to feel when the family's all able to play golf together. But it could be Rummy Cup, it doesn't need to be golf.
Exactly. And I actually have the vision of us playing together on a certain golf course in New Zealand. Wonderful. That has a beautiful view of the lake next to it, and there's little sheep running around, and it's just there's a whole vision to it. It's not just
and here's a great thing about this, right? Like future visions. So even as you are explaining this now, this is Ikigai.
Yeah, I feel it, right?
I'm excited for this. This is coming. That feeling of what is possible is a feeling of Ikigai too. And that's what I've really enjoyed through this year of podcasting and working on the book, has been oh, it's much more than I thought. It's not just career, and it's not just these 4 questions. It's all of those things about looking forward to this moment happening, imagining this future, or remembering these things which we did in the past, or the moment, when even when you were getting a little bit tearful and emotional before, that's actually, for me, you really feeling I am alive in this moment, here and now. That for me is another expression of Ikigai. So it's just really beautifully all encompassing, rather than being just like this is 1 point on a Venn diagram.
Yeah. Are you getting paid for it? No.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't get paid for listening. I'm like crying at a musical the last time I checked. Maybe I should. Maybe I could be a critic. No, I'm not sure I would have that role. Yeah.
And that's a really good reminder not to expect your Ikigai to be just the one thing, right? It's to have multiple ways to experience your Ikigai. It's a lot of pressure for one thing, right?
Yeah.
And I see this a lot. It must be A or B. Why can't it be A and B and C? You know, it's golf and painting and podcasting, for example, is my Ikigai. Is that all right? Is that allowed?
Yeah. Yeah. I think as have as many or as few as you like. Ken Moggy talks about he has like 100 moments of Ikigai in his day. And when I interviewed Akihiro Hasegawa, which I interviewed him in Japanese, so it's not being released as a podcast, but he was like, well, I think that's a bit too many, but I definitely think you shouldn't have just one. And that's, his research is really interesting because he talks about how, for example, when people retire, he was talking about like the patriarchs of the family who were the breadwinners. They retire and then they become, their son kind of takes over in the family, and their self-reported Ikigai goes down massively because they're like, who am I? I'm not the primary breadwinner. I'm not like the boss of the house. Why am I here? So that's why as well, I feel, any of those transition periods where you feel like your main Ikigai, if you really have like one thing that you really focus on, we see it when people get downsized, empty nest, become a parent, all these different things are shifting. If your identity and your Ikigai is so tied up in just one thing, for me, it feels really dangerous. It feels like too much pressure on that one thing. Like, what if I get injured and I can't run anymore, and that's the only thing which I have? Or in COVID, I thought that my Ikigai was about being in the room with people. Like, it was that magic of facilitating face to face. And so I had like a massive, who am I? What do I do? It was also tied up within a certain experience. And on the podcast, Brittany Arthur talks about that a lot. Brittany. I always want to call her Tiffany. She talks about that a lot as well. Like, when you strip it back to the origins, like to the essence of the activity, what is it really? And she realized, like, it wasn't for her about like the 5-star dinners, which she liked, and being in the hotel. And she's now doing this crazy schedule because she loves her work so much that she's willing to like do those workshops at 2:00 in the morning. And that gets her out of bed. It wouldn't for me, but there you go. Because my Ikigai also revolves around having a good night's sleep.
Sounds familiar.
yeah, that's important to me. Exactly. Oh my god, yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
can't understand these people who stay up late.
No. We are obviously early birds.
Yes, for sure.
Yes, up at 5:30 or whatever, and then all of that as well. But the living our Ikigais in different ways. Yes. Rock on, Brittany. She's doing amazing. She's still hanging in there. Yeah.
But I think a lot of people experience that in the last couple of years, right? You talk about the Great Resignation, and people are like thinking about their work differently and their life differently. And it is a bit like, what's important? What do I want to? How do I want to spend my days? So feel like Ikigai's time is here.
Yes, definitely. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I think if you're listening to this episode, it's probably already 2022. Possibly, I think, isn't it?
Yes, I think in our planning. Yes.
So how are you going to focus on those things that are important to you in the coming year? It's definitely a good thing to start with. Yeah. So what's happening in 2022 for Jennifer? We've already
hate that question.
You have to answer it. It's your
I know. It's my question, isn't it? It's my question. What's coming up? What's coming up is hopefully the book will come out. I'm in agent discussion right now, getting the proposal together. We'll see what happens with season 2 of Ikigai with Jennifer Shinkai. We'll release Gus poem will come out. And then I think actually one thing that I've learned is I don't really like this like deep planning. And I found it really difficult to do in COVID. And I still feel that now. That let's just see kind of what emerges. It's a terrible like business prospect. But I've got, interesting work is coming through from facilitation perspective and coaching clients. So that continues to get me very excited to be supporting my clients in those areas, as well as just developing a little bit more of my art career too. And I definitely want to go to England in the summer.
Yes.
It's written on my calendar, it's written there already. End of July, all of August. That's really, hopefully I can be there this year.
Excellent.
Next year, 2022, whatever year it is, 2022. It's been too long. And I know I'm not alone in the world who's in this situation. So fingers crossed for short quarantines and more open borders. I'm glad my English literature degree paid off.
Yeah,
there.
obviously, being away from England has not helped
my English. Yeah. Yes. Oh, and I will have finished reading the complete works of Shakespeare, so that will be good, and we'll be looking for what our next topics are for study.
Yes, it's just amazing that all this other stuff that you're doing, and you've read the complete works of Shakespeare. Just chuck that in there.
Yeah, just chuck that in there. Yeah, that's been such a source of ikigai and joy for me. Just it's got the quest element of getting everything done. It's got the social element of talking about it with people. I get to watch plays as well as read them, so that's always really, really important to me. So it's got everything
Did you love Shakespeare the first time round, like when you first
I studied English literature, so yes.
You did. Okay. That wasn't like you were like drags kicking and screaming through.
No, I was always a fan of the bard. I think what's come up actually now has been like, why are we still reading this for a lot of the stuff? And is it relevant? Is it problematic? Like those perspectives have been really interesting to talk about, which didn't come up when I was first reading it in the 90s. Or just didn't come up in discussions I was having anyway, probably were in more academic circles. But for me, not so much.
Alrighty. Yes. Yeah. Rock on 2022.
2022, Year of the, is it tiger? Let's say tiger. Yeah.
Yes, I think it is the year of the tiger.
Not
sure what that means, but yeah.
Yes, I know. I was thinking that I need to check what's coming up.
What does the year of the tiger signify?
Yeah. And we'll be continuing on with Make March Matter as well, I'm sure.
Don't forget, yes, good old Make March Matter. Trucking along there.
Trucking along, seeing, it feels such a beautiful community as well that impacts everyone really positively, I hope, who comes into contact with it. So we'll see what that looks like. There's been a bit of a call to do more face-to-face stuff. It's not calling me, but I'm happy for other members to run with that and organize it. So I like the ease of online gathering for sure. Yeah,
it's nice to see people just getting together when they happen to be passing through near each other or something, and so people who wouldn't normally have a chance to meet, because they live near each other, or a meeting, and who knows what will come about from that.
Exactly.
So we're still accepting members and
yes.
still open to join. Still
Always.
Along.
So we were talking about we should have Make March Matter business awards, because I was all grumpy that we didn't beat AstraZeneca. Of course, they were worthy winners of the British Business Awards. but it made me think about, what are what's the recognition for small businesses for the decent work that they provide in the communities. But I feel like I might be putting too much on my plate to take the lead on that in 2022 when I've got so many other things going on. But it would be cool. It would be cool to do it. But I'm just feeling now like, oh, it's a bit too shiny object that might distract me from what I really want to be working on. 2023.
2023, maybe.
2023. Yeah. Suddenly 2022 is very real and around the corner. But never say never. You never know. Someone in the community might want to run with it. So.
Exactly. Maybe there is someone who would just love to take that on.
Yeah, very cool.
If they hear about it. Well, I'm excited to have this recording done and to have you on record talking about these things. And you'll be able to look back in a year's time and go, oh, listen to Jennifer back then.
Oh, no.
She had no idea all the wonderful things that were coming to her.
Yes. Oh, I like the way you said that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say like, little did she know. But generally, like the Jennifer of today cannot envision what the Jennifer in a year's time could be experiencing and the growth you would have had. I think even if you just look back over the last 3 months and some of the growth you've had, you just be like, wow.
Yeah. And I think, that's the exciting part about being alive. It's also the terrifying part, but like, what will happen? We just don't know. And what can you create for yourself? I think that's been like the through line. Like many people in interviews have talked about, like, what's the red thread that connects their Ikigai and kind of how it shows up. But this idea of creating whatever I want, creating what is in my world, I've always felt very empowered to be able to do that, to just think about what's possible. And maybe I haven't achieved everything that I set out to do, but it's not been because I didn't first have the thought. That's kind of nonsense. I feel really weird, like what I've said, but let me try to explain. I've tried to get out of my own way, and the things which have brought me like the most surprising joy, or the things which have really nurtured me, have been things which I haven't overthought. Yeah.
You've just been sort of quietly practicing them, and then ta-da, it was a chance to maybe use them, or you came to the point where it's like, oh, this is now, or I can use this now, or this works,
never, all those years, I worked in the recruitment company for 12 years and I had various jobs, and now I look back and I go, oh yes, sales experience, that was great. Marketing experience, that was great. Doing training, that was great. I see kind of where those kind of red threads come up. And I also feel like a lot of things when I've just gone, let's give it a try, and then we'll work out like how we're going to do it, but say yes first. That approach has been very helpful for me and kept things fresh, like kept me excited about life, rather than like overthinking and worrying and but what if I get into that eventually, but for sure in the execution stage, but early doors, like be very quick to say yes. It's been
there you go,
very helpful.
There's Jennifer's advice for you: be quick to say yes, and you can work the rest out as you go along.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean, even the fact that we're talking here today is from the thing that I just thought, I'm supposed to start a podcast 4 years ago.
Yes.
And sat in my closet with my iPhone and recorded a few episodes with no idea that this would where it would lead me. But looking back, it's like, well, I've been practicing this for 4 years and now I can help other people. And here we are recording this episode today. So
the same thing with this podcast, right? I didn't have any intention to start a podcast. I didn't actually have an intention to write a book. And I was just contacted through my blog, which I don't update that often, to be honest. I definitely
You
don't
weren't
update.
like a blogger,
Yeah, not
mega
like a
blogger or
blogger.
anything.
Yeah, it's like on my business blog and some things, and I wrote some things about Ikigai, and this agent contacted me and said, hey, why don't you write a book? You've got an English literature degree and you're a coach and you blog a bit, so you can obviously string a sentence. And that's where it came from. And then I put this proposal into her, the first draft. She was like, no, that's not how we write a proposal. Very patient. The second draft, she was like, oh, that's much better. I can see you've really worked on it. But now you need some other voices, because it's all just your story. Right. It's a great story, but no, you need some other ways for readers to connect. And then that's when I was like, okay, I have to interview people. So I need to record it to get the transcript. And if I'm going to record it, I'm not quite sure when this book is going to come out. Why don't I just start a podcast? And that's how the podcast started. Not in the plan. And the same with Can Giraffe Swim book. Like that was, remember I talked to my coach, Sarah Fudia, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm about to publish a children's book. And she was like, where was this on the 5-year plan or the 12-month plan? It's like, it absolutely wasn't, wasn't there at all. But, the idea came, and then I went, why not? What would it be like? And it also, we talked earlier about like hold it lightly. It also took out the pressure of the book on Ikigai that was starting to feel a bit heavy, to be like, oh, I've already published a book now.
Yeah.
I mean,
been there, done that.
Yeah, been there, done that. It's still different, but at least, like it's out there and in the world. So, people sometimes go, oh, well, Jayne's done 100 and something episodes of my podcast, but never be like that. Like, but that's not how you approached it in your first one. It was not the plan. Like, just try the thing. Might this be fun? Might this be interesting? Yeah, have a go. Yeah, pick up the golf clubs or the paintbrush, or make that offer to make a presentation in your team meeting, or whatever it is that you feel like, oh, that might make me feel icky, right? That might make me feel like the sensation of being alive. Then as long as it's not hurting anyone, go for it.
Yeah, I think at the moment with this sort of COVID ongoing thing, that sensation of being alive has been, it's harder to get hold of, I feel. Yeah, we're doing so many Zooms and not leaving the house as much or traveling as much. So where can I get that sensation of feeling alive in a good and healthy way, like not destructive manner, obviously. But
well, actually, like in if we want to be true as well to the Ikigai can also be, it can be about revenge. It can be about keeping up with the Joneses. Like that's also fine if that's, I said, as long as it's not hurting anyone. But your Ikigai can be driven in those things. It doesn't, but what coming up in my coaching when I talk about it is, that's all great and you can go along that, but that's your choice. Is that how you want to live? And most people are like, actually, not sure I want that to be my driving energy, so I might replace it with something else. But I think there's interesting like dark side of Ikigai as well, or when it becomes like an obsession. That's also a possibility too. So
is that okay if it becomes an obsession or if it goes to the dark side?
Who am I to judge what is good or what is bad? It's not often talked about a lot because people want to sort of be in like the love and light. But I think there's many times that I've seen people driven by, what were we talking about something earlier on? Oh, maybe like, you're talking about sports, right? I'm going to take up the sport. And sometimes people do stuff to prove to someone that they can do it. You didn't believe in me. I'll show you. Yeah. That I'll show you energy is a kind of facet of Ikigai. So I remember, I talked to Dr. Hasegawa about this. So this whole idea that's like something that you love, it can also be something that you hate. And that's kind of what makes it fascinating too. As long as it gets you out of bed in the morning. Yeah. So Now, I would say though, that the choices I've made have been to be on ones which feel like more nurturing to me and feel maybe less destructive of other people's Ikigai as well. But that's a choice that everyone can make. But you don't have to.
Mm.
You don't have to. You can choose revenge, and you can choose to be driven by "I told you so" energy. Like that's your life, your Ikigai. Up to you.
There you go. So, any final words before we sign off?
No. I think just, it's 2022 now by the time that we release that. And I hope that everybody does a little bit of a brave step to just do one thing and see where it leads you. And like feel in that moment when you answered the call, like what it was like. And I hope that it brings everybody lots of joy. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Come to listen to Jayne's podcast as well, everyone in her podcast family, all of those things too. And just fill your life with lots of wonderful input. I think that's the first step as well.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. And maybe if you can't even do that, just watch what other people are doing. That might give you a step that you want to do as well, I think. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I hope everyone is feeling icky and find some more ways to wake up tomorrow, because there's lots of things. I was telling my son this the other day. It's like there's so much good stuff waiting for you. You don't even know. You don't even know. I'm getting emotional now. You don't even know what is ready, like, and out there for you. So don't quit because you're 8. But like for the rest of us who are more 48, 58, 78, like you don't even know what's there.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, still lots of interesting things coming. Or just go back and Jayne, you did that wonderful thing the other day, go back and look at this year's photos. Go back and look at old photos and just be like, oh my God, my life I've had these amazing experiences. And I've had these small moments, it doesn't all have to be big banner events. Oh yeah, that day at the park was really fun. The light was perfect and we laughed a lot and someone fell in the pond, that's just remembering that is a sensation of Ikigai as well.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, very
cool.
good. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you for sharing and telling us all those things that we've all been wanting to know, but had a chance to ask or hear. So yes, and keep listening to Ikigai for season 2 whenever that comes out.
Yes.
And go back and check the ones you missed. Exactly.
Yes, exactly. All right. Thank you so much, Jayne, for being our host for today. And thank you to everyone for supporting the 20 episodes of Ikigai with Jennifer Shinkai. It wasn't the original plan. Nothing in my life ever is. But it's amazing how things turn out. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for listening. Take care. See you on the airwaves again soon. Bye.